Hi, everyone. Harry here with the latest on the administration sifting through the wreckage of the dismissals of the Comey and James prosecutions. So you have immediately, yesterday afternoon, hours after the opinions come out, a statement by none other than White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt that we're doing an immediate appeal. Bondi said the same. Just as a quick aside here, that's already a showing that of the politicization of the Department of Justice. The rules are that only the Solicitor General can greenlight an appeal. Here, he would be convening different people and thinking about the upsides, downsides. But the political imperative that has driven these prosecutions from the start took priority, took it over, and they could just announce from the White House, which again, in previous administrations would have nothing to do with individual cases, that they're appealing. Okay, and so they are, but that's just the beginning, not the end of a really complicated situation for them. I have a Substack that just came out detailing 5 questions in the wake of these dismissals. And that's even assuming there's an appeal, but sort of what happens next and how do they try to sift through the mess. Okay, first point to make. Nachmanoff, who's the judge in the Eastern District of Virginia, has the strongest stuff, or had it. He is the judge who, in the hearing last week that I attended, heard the motions to dismiss because it's a reprisal selective prosecution. He seemed to be leaning that way. That hasn't gone away. If and when they appeal, and they haven't officially done it yet, that will divest him of jurisdiction. It'll go up to the Fourth Circuit. But either the Fourth Circuit affirms, and it's the end of the case, more about that in a moment, or they reverse, but it comes back and just where it was before, and Nachmanoff can still have these motions in front of him, which include the selective prosecution, but also 3 or 4 others, including the most recent, that, hey, there was no indictment that the grand jury ever passed on because Halligan did a bozo move and then was sort of deceptive about it. That seems harsh, but I think the facts clearly bear that out. I won't go through them again because they're in my Substack and a previous YouTube from yesterday. But so they're not going anywhere, and they lie in wait depending what happens on appeal. What about Halligan? Can they just sort of stick her in while they appeal? We've seen again and again emergency motions where they've gotten courts of appeals to give provisional relief, saying while this is playing out, you can do what you wanted. Often really poorly done, not according to the real established parameters of doing that kind of stay action and overriding a district court. Anyway, it's not in play here. There's no provisional nothing. This was a full disposition of the case. It's been dismissed. So now it's just on the merits in front of the Fourth Circuit. There's no real tangible possibility that they say, while we decide, the indictment is reinstated and keep going forward on the case. No, the indictment has been dismissed. And the Fourth Circuit can reverse that or it can affirm it, but it doesn't just temporarily give the administration relief. So that's the state of play. Now, they could supersede. They could go in with a new indictment that even as the appeal is pending. It won't be Halligan who could do it. She is walled off, but maybe they get someone to go try it again. And of course, it wipes out from the record the real blundering in the grand jury, and would moot that issue before Nachmanoff if the case ever comes back. The information that Halligan gave to the grand jury and the like. It's not a normal thing to do, though, to do a superseding indictment when you're on appeal. It kind of signals that you don't have a lot of faith in your appeal. And just in general, they can supersede at some point, even if they lose this appeal. Who's going to do it? Who wants to do it? Nobody in the office of the Eastern District of Virginia wants anything to do with the case. And then Halligan, to go back to her future. Curry made it really clear she's not eligible to serve. The administration has advertised a few different kind of tricky maneuvers. They'll call her this, they'll call her that. And Curry made clear any of them violate the same scheme, and it would just look like an end around, an end around of another end around. And basically, if they try to put her back with the same responsibilities, I think it gets slapped down immediately. Now, there's one way she could get the job. She could be nominated and confirmed. That's where we are now in the overall confirmation and appointment landscape. That's what the congressional scheme shows. You can do an interim for a time, 120 days. But then at that point, it's time to get your person confirmed. And if you can't just keep substituting in someone who exercises all the responsibilities and therefore cuts Congress out of the picture, and with this acting title, exercises all the authority, and Congress never gets its constitutional and statutory prerogative to weigh in. So at this point, Halligan could be nominated and confirmed, except she can't be nominated and confirmed. First, she can be nominated, but the senators from Virginia, but the two Democratic senators, will not return the so-called blue slips. That's what Trump has been pushing Grassley to do away with, this kind of old Senate tradition, that prerogative that in your home state you have to approve, you have effective veto power. It's not a good government idea, but it's one of the prerogatives that the Senate holds dear, and they're not going to give away, even at Trump's pressure. Moreover, let's say they did. After all that's happened and who Lindsey Halligan has shown herself to be, I don't see 50 senators voting for her. So I don't think she can be put into office through the normal political process, and she can't be through other ways. I think her days as U.S. attorney, even functional U.S. attorney, are done. And if they try to buck that somehow and keep her in there, it's a huge roll of the dice, because everything day in, day out then that she would be doing would be very likely to be found at the end of the day invalid, and you would have the mess of Comey and James times 100 with all these people who'd been indicted or other moves that were done by a nullity, an outsider, somebody who has just no business being there. Okay, a couple more points. Letitia James, I think, is in a different. Let me just go to the difference between James and Comey. I think they both have really strong reprisal prosecution motions. We saw Comey's being argued. The facts are basically the same with James, except even a little worse, because the statements that Trump made about Comey generally lopped in James, and then he made a lot of others. Remember, he's been fuming, and steam's been coming out of his ears for years because she brought this successful, huge civil suit against him, and she pretty much denounced herself as an enemy of Trump, probably imprudently, but anyway, she did during the campaign. So he's had it in for her, and the record that's the reason this has happened is as strong as with Comey. And even if they're pretty bogus charges against her, which at very best are accurate but incredibly picayune and minor, not the kind of thing a federal office would ever bring. Even if there's something to them, it doesn't matter. The law of selective vindictive prosecution says if that's the reason, the causal reason that she's been indicted, that's a due process violation without regard to the evidence. Comey is in a different and really interesting position. Remember, they rush her in to get her to just go in and get an indictment a couple days before the statute of limitation runs, and now it's been dismissed. So does that mean that it's all over because the statute has run? I looked at this pretty carefully. It's not 100%, but there's a lot of cases out there. I read them. They're in the courts of appeals. Let me start by saying a lot of people I respect, think that there is a statute, 3288, that cures this problem for the administration, that gives them an extra 6 months once an indictment has been dismissed. But as I read the cases, it doesn't apply, that statute, for what is essentially here a legal nullity. The state of the law is basically this indictment never happened. It was signed by a stranger or someone with, as I do in the Substack, which we'll link to, could have just signed it Santa Claus. And when it's that kind of infirmity, I think that this statute that the administration seems to be relying on, and colleagues I respect are pointing to, does not apply. So my read on this is, at the end of the day, on top of everything else, the case against Comey will be dismissed because it's there. The statute of limitations now has run, if it comes to it. I have a different view from others there. Stay tuned. But here you go, my prediction on the record. And more generally, my reasons are set out in the Substack, which I hope you'll give a look at. So there you have it. Appeal coming, but a very tricky decision tree for the administration, and generally 2 cases that I think will not go to trial. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.